Hello everybody, welcome to Inside Zambezi, where we discuss on issues relating to gender-based violence, HIV, as well as sexual and reproductive health rights. Please subscribe to our channel and like for more content like this. Today we are at the Katima Mulilo UNAM campus, where we are going to have a better understanding on how mental health relates to gender-based violence. Welcome again to another episode of Inside Zambezi. My name is Rian, and today we're going to have an in-depth discussion on mental health as well as gender-based violence. These are issues that have been left on the periphery for quite some time. So today we're at the University of Namibia Katima Mulilo campus, where we have a special guest on our show who's going to take us through these topics. So doctor, please introduce yourself for our viewers.
Thank you, Philip. My name is Dr. Charles Cheta. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Namibia Katima Mulilo campus. Just a brief about my credentials. I have a PhD in education psychology, and my interest and my expertise are in the area of educational psychology, and counseling, guidance. That's in brief my introduction.
Thank you very much. So let's get into it. Let's get into the business of the day. So what exactly is a psychologist and what does a psychologist do?
Okay, there are many ways of defining it, but it comes to one proper definition. A psychologist is any person who studies the mind and the behavior. The human mind to be very specific, but not only that, they can also be people who specialize in mental treatment. It can be in the form of emotional treatment, it can be in the form of behavioral disorders. Also, you can, as a psychologist, you can be a specialist. We can even call you a therapist. You can be also be called a counselor. And in terms of counseling or a therapist, it all depends in which area you're specializing. There are those who might specialize in what we call neuronal disorders about the neurons of the brain. And for those who also specialize in clinical psychology, and we even call it like the therapy of talk.
Wow, quite interesting. It's so amazing how you're phrasing these words, because they really indicate, I'm sure even to our viewers, they bring the discussion to a level where it is easy for people to understand. Because mental health is something that is least spoken of in our communities, and gender-based violence is on the rise. So we understand that we could really not do away with gender-based violence if we do not address mental health. That's why expertise of your caliber are very important in our communities, so that we can try and strengthen methods that could be used to distinguish the social issues that we have in our communities. So, doctor, can you just please take us through on what are the mental health disorders that are out there?
There are several of them. Yeah. The actual language, English word for mental health or mental health disorder is just mental illness. When there's something, when the mind is not well, we talk about the psyche. So there are many ways of describing it. It can come in the form of anxiety. Anxiety is some form of fear, which can go to a level of being an illness. But by and large, anxiety is normal, it's part of us. It's only when we're anxious for you to do something. Like for instance, they say, you need to go and write a test. If you don't have a level of anxiety, to be anxious to come, you will not even prepare. But when that anxiety moves on a higher level, then it becomes a problem, because it can easily translate to what we call stress. And then those are now disorders we're talking about. We talk of stress, we talk of disorders, we talk of bipolar disorders, we talk of post-traumatic stress disorders, which is shortened by saying it's PTSD. We also talk of schizophrenia, which is a neurological disorder. There can be an eating disorder, a sleeping disorder, the line is just too long. Any form of condition of your mind which makes you to behave abnormal, so to say, in the definition of the concept of abnormality. When you do things differently, you behave differently because of the state of your mind. That can easily be simply explained as a mental health problem.
Okay,
Yes.
quite interesting. So what are the signs of mental health disorder? Because mental health is something that we have least expertise on in our communities. When we have the opportunity to try and diagnose these issues, in most cases we do not have enough professionals in our communities.
Yeah.
So the question I have for you, doctor, is what are the signs of mental health disorders?
Okay, let me start by saying there are many signs, and they also appear or they manifest themselves differently from different people. But the ones which researchers and specialists are agreeing upon to be the most significant and there are clear signs of mental illness would include things like feeling sad, too much sad all the time. You know, under normal circumstances, you were supposed to be happy and excited when things happen, but when you are already in the direction of mental, despite of the circumstances in which you find yourself, there will be always, you'll be carrying a down face, they would call it. You will feel sad, sometimes you express excess fears, something which was supposed to be, you were supposed just in a small sense of your body, but because of the state of your mind, we allow you we are going to express what we call paranoia. It's an excess fear of something which might not even be there to begin with. Also, you will have extreme mood changes of sometimes come too high, or sometimes come too low, or you can also be withdrawn from friends. Out of a sudden, you were previously, before your mind was functioning properly, you were the person of the group. But out of a sudden, people follow you. You prefer to be alone. You want to withdraw from the friends. You want to withdraw from the family. You will always be saying, "I want my space." Now, when people ask, "Why is it like that?" Talking of what we are discussing about today, that could be some positive, possible signs and indicators that they should even start what we call raising a red flag in your mind that this is not a normal person. There's no normal way of behaving. He was supposed to be with us, but at all costs you avoid all the people. Sometimes there are also people who can express through being so worried all the time. The person out of a sudden he is carried by. Sometimes they even express in the form of what we call a daydreaming. You are preoccupied with things which you cannot get an answer to. So those could be, in a nutshell, some signs of mental illness or what we call mental disorder, as you like to put that way.
Right. So it's because what I'm picking up from what you're saying is our mental health really has a direct impact on how we carry ourselves out. Like you just mentioned in some of the answers you gave, from being a class act, one could now be somebody who isolates, and that could be a sign of a mental health disorder.
Yeah.
So what are remedies that are out there as a psychologist? What remedies are out there that we could use to try and make life better in terms of mental health disorder?
Okay, there are many ways of assisting someone who is in that state, but the most preferred one, what we call a psychotherapy, which I also mentioned from the beginning, is a talk healing way of helping someone to be healed. We call it a talk therapy. But this should be done by someone who has been professionally trained, and you must have your experience with the qualifications. Typically, you must have a psychology. From the way we started, remember, I gave the examples of who are the psychologists, and people like psychotherapists. And that could be for me, the starting point. Because, like we have rightly mentioned, a mental health disorder, it is something with the mind. And when the mind is not functioning as it's supposed to, you manifest that, it's manifested in your behavior. That's why it is better and preferable to treat the mind itself. And how do you do it? It comes in the form of counseling, counseling or therapy. You make someone talk about. From the beginning, we were saying that the examples of disorders, we talked about things like depression, things like. So you help when you are in the therapy, on top of the treatment now, you help someone to go back. You create a platform where the person can express, speak out with a free mind, with a supporting environment. What is it that is depressing him? What is it that is making him go down? If you will succeed in helping the person to come up with that, that's already, or you are already on the path of healing. Because you are down because of these things which you are carrying ahead, but your mind is full of worries, as we have mentioned, it's full of fears, it's full of this. But now, if you help someone to talk through all those fears, all those worries, that is for me, that's the first step of treating, the first and the best treatment of disorders. However, sometimes the situation could be that bad that even a clinical therapy might not help, or by itself. Then that's where medication comes in. You can still take the person for medication, the prescriptions, so that you will be having two interventions. One is the counseling part, but also because it makes, remember when it has gone to the stage of where it's now a disorder, even the cells of the brain are now damaged. And sometimes the talk, the psychotherapy might not heal the physical part or the cells of the bone, of the brain. And that's why medication comes also handy, so that you use them together. So there are many things people will be telling you about doing that. For me, I would say when someone in a society has been diagnosed or is known to have these problems, it's preferable to go to seek for counseling and professional help. And it's up to the assessment and the diagnosis of the severity of the problem. He might even go and add something like a medication on it. The third part is to change your lifestyle. Because if you can pinpoint, I behave like this when I am in this environment. When I'm in this, amongst these people, I have this problem. Like those people say, there are people who, for instance, just give an example, not necessarily a mental health problem. There are those people who will drink because you are among us friends who drink. When you take that person and go to, he has other friends who go to church. When you put him with the people who go to church, he can tell you for the whole year, I never drank. So sometimes these problems can be addressed by identifying the cause of the problem, and then you disassociate yourself with that situation as a form of treatment. So I mentioned the three things. I said psychotherapy, I also mentioned medication, and the change of environment after self-talk to yourself.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, especially the last one that you spoke of, association. This is one of the problems that has really been affecting society today. And one of them, just to end on that, is today in society it's very difficult for men to speak up. And we can look at the traditional values, how men have been taught to always, never speak up when they are facing challenges. And this is what could lead to depression and all of these mental health disorders, because men probably, or this man was put in an environment where they were told a man shouldn't speak up, for example, when they are facing a problem. So how can we reach out to people in situations like that, where you live in a society that has a culture where a man, for example, is not supposed to speak up?
Yeah, I think the first point for us is people is to understand that our culture has evolved. It has changed. Yeah, and so are the lifestyles. In the past, in the 60s and even down that side, it was that idea of you being a man it was helpful to do so. Why? Because society by those days was defined by people within the family themselves. There was no this interaction, But today, things have changed. Some people leave their own comfortable home because of school at an early stage. You find yourself, maybe you are from Sundwa, where everybody knows you, but because of things like schooling, you move at a very early stage, you find yourself in Katima. And Katima is a different society with all its norms. Then maybe when you go for employment, you find yourself in excuse me. Before you know it, you find yourself maybe in the US. Now, with all these societal norms and dynamics, it's not helpful for us to stick to that thing. So you keep yourself, you just keep quiet because you're a man. Any form of living or style of life should be informed by the current dynamics of life. And that's why I always insist when I talk to people, attributes like self-esteem is very important. To have a positive self-esteem of who you are, you know yourself. You must know. You keep to your lane when you walk. On top of it, I'm using it hypothetically. Together with that, the concept of assertiveness. You need to be assertive. It's the combination of the two that can help you to stay in the storm of this life. When you are assertive, when you are positive in terms of yourself, that can help you to a large extent to minimize the things of stress, because you know what you want in life, and you know how to express them without attracting the problems from others. One of the causes of depression or mental health is the absence of self-confidence, is the absence of being assertive. Because of that, you are living at the mercy of others. And because of that, you find yourself in a stressful situation, which will actually go down all the levels up to depression or whatever you can mention it. So, one would be therefore comfortable to mention that for us to live in this world, it's important that we also address things which are compatible with the current style of living. Speaking up is one of them. You can always speak up and stand up someone when you are assertive. When we told about what I was talking about. Self-confidence is one of them. You can only survive in an environment when you are surrounded by people. Let me go back to the example I gave. If you are from Sachona, for instance, you grow up there, you find yourself out of a sudden you are now in who no one knows knows you except yourself. How do you become relevant to that society? Unless when you step on your 2 feet and express what you want and tell them, here I am. But now, if you are a victim of poor self-esteem, you will be the target and the target of problems like we're talking about stress. There are people who never grow up out of themselves, and others even left their workplace because they cannot cope with the new environment. They are not able to reach out to people. The world in which we are today is the world of reaching out to people. Tell people what you want, because the world is so fast. People are busy with themselves. And if you expect someone to think for you and do things for you, and if they don't come out, you start making with the mistakes that those people don't love me, those people hate me. No, it's not that they don't like you. It's because everybody is busy making their own life to a point that it's going to be difficult for them to take care of themselves and take care of you. And that's why self-confidence is very important. Tell people what you want without necessarily attracting confrontation. That way, you will be able to live with your own problems at a minimal level.
Wow, really good. You know, it's very important for the community to be aware of the referral pathways when it comes to doing away with issues such as mental health disorders. So can you just share with us and the viewers, where can one, just from the communities in the societies of the Zambezi region, for example, where can one find a psychologist when they need one?
They are available in different workplaces. For those who are in schools, for instance, talk of learners. I'm not sure of the actual state, but what I know, what I can say with confidence, that almost every school in Namibia has what we call a life skills teacher. Yeah, the role of that person at that given school is to provide counseling services, psychological services, and that would be the entry point from those who are still in school. Because when the child is, if they establish a relationship with the school life skills teacher, and the life skills teacher might be in a position of not able to assist, then the life skills teacher will start the whole ball rolling by making referrals, get connected to social workers, psychologists whom we have. If we don't have them, even psychiatrists we might connect. If we don't have them in this region, we connect them to the individual. That's the entry point for learners. For the students, like at the university here, we have an office which we call support office for students and also psychological services. Like on this campus, there are 2 offices. So if we have such a person who's going through those and then they want help, they go through those offices. We call it, in the past they would call the Deans of Student Affairs, but today they call it DSA, standing for Director of Student Affairs. That's the entry point when you are a student for an institution like Namibia, the University of Namibia. Now, what more of those in the community, in the village? Where do they go? I would suggest that the entry point would be the clinics. I'm talking of the public clinics, health clinics. When they go there for physical treatment, maybe a wound or something like that, it could be the best entry point also if the problem is not necessarily physical, it's just mental. Yeah. If the person cannot take himself or herself to the clinic, let the people within, the family members, whoever, take the person to the clinic. And once they are at the clinic will have its own way of also the structure, some support, the structure. It will connect through their own sections. In the Ministry of Health, there are many sections. There's a social work section, there's a section of treatment like this. So I would say from the communities, they can enter through the clinics. In schools, they enter through life skills teachers. At the university, they enter through the office of the students of the Director of Student Affairs.
Thank you very much. I think now we have a better understanding on what mental health is. So this briefly brings us to the end of our first part of the video. So the second part, we are going to link mental health to gender-based violence and see how mental health disorders contribute to violent behavior.